Our speaker this morning is Brother Doug Tibbits. He is here with his wife Susan. His son Brandon is a preacher in Winning, Texas, and his daughters Kaylee, Katie, and Elise Russell are here with them. His topic this morning is JD and Tant. I'm pretty sure.
Jefferson Davis Tant. It's very humbling to sit and read and study about men in the past who have worked so hard in the kingdom of God. His story reminds me of Acts 5:42, where it says, "And daily in the temple and in every house they cease not to teach and preach Jesus Christ." You know, there are two kinds of preachers. There are ones that work hard, and there are ones that do not. There are preachers that lead people to Christ, and there are preachers that lead them away from Christ. Which one of those will you be? Will the things you say and do have a positive or a negative impact on the church? In 1 Peter 4:11 it says, "If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God. If any man minister, let him do it as with the ability that God giveth, that God in all things might be glorified through Jesus Christ, in whom be praise and dominion forever and ever." I'll be discussing 3 points. I'll be discussing J.D. Tant's life, his early life, and I'll be discussing some of the positive and some of the negative things he had upon the church. So let's start with his life. Jefferson David Tant was born in Paulding County in Georgia on June 28, 1861. His father was very well-to-do, and after he left for the war, they lost everything on the farm. For 3 months, his family lived under an oak tree. His mom traveled 22 miles to get wheat. And they dug under a smokehouse to get salt. They boiled the wheat in the salt water, and that was their food for 3 months. In 1873, he spent his days fishing at the creek so his family could eat. During his same year, at age 12, he was bitten by a rattlesnake and almost died. There are no doctors around at this time that could heal somebody of a snake bite, so they used home remedies. You can think back, if anybody was in Boy Scouts, you might think back, they cut the wound and let it bleed and try to get the poison out. They put Tabasco and whiskey on it. At age 14, he joined the Methodist Church, and the next year his parents moved from Georgia to Texas. In 1876, his family packed up their goods in 5 boxes, took a train to Memphis, Tennessee, and caught a wagon train to the great land of promise, Texas. In 1880, at age 19, he became a duly ordained Methodist preacher. He had great lung power and the ability to get up in excitement. This is more important for a Methodist preacher than that brain power. In 1881, at the age 20, his family moved to Texas. There, Brother Tant had an occasion to hear 2 Campbellite preachers in North Texas, which had a disturbing effect on him. John M. McKinney of McKinney, Texas, Ben Faulkner of Forest Grove, Texas. These were the first Christian preachers he had ever heard. After hearing him preach many times, he became disturbed about the subject of baptism, particularly infant sprinkling. He didn't get paid very much for preaching, but he was still a Methodist preacher at this time. He was a breaker of horses. He made $5 per horse to travel a horse. Many times he would pick up 300 pounds of cotton and then preach that night, and do this for several weeks at a time. Brother Tant first met W.H.D. Carrington at a gospel meeting in Tibbits, Texas. He attended Brother Carrington's meeting each night, and his preaching was penetrating that conviction, increasing doubts, uncertainty, and confusion in the young preacher's mind. Tant realized with an unutterable sense of apprehension that he had been preaching error, and that if he had died in that condition, he would have stood in the final judgment of God, condemned and damned forever. So August 14, 1881, Brother Tant came forward, gave the preacher his hand, weeping from fear, from gratitude, from the awful realization that his mother, his father, his brothers, his sister were all still in error, which he was leading. He thought he was baptized for the correct reason, and 1 week later he started preaching at the beautiful Church of Christ. In 1886, at age 24, he borrowed a horse and rode 186 miles to be baptized by John Sterling. He is now a Christian. For the first 4 years of preaching, Tant received $9.75 total compensation for preaching, and $5 of that was for a wedding. He was discouraged when he received $18 for a meeting from a congregation of 150, which had a net worth of $200,000. $15 of that was for traveling expenses, so that left him $3 to support his family. The congregation in Willis, Texas promised him $600. He built up one church building and repaired one. They started 3 new congregations. He baptized 166 people, and they paid him $235, not the agreed amount of $600. You know, he had hard times, and so will we as gospel preachers. Now that he is a gospel preacher, let us notice some of the positive impacts that he had upon the church. Brother Tant moved, and this was mostly in Texas. We won't have time to go into his life in Tennessee, but in 1887, Brother Tant moved to Hamilton, Texas. And from 1887 to 1889, he worked there with 6 small congregations, 8 months where the Hamilton congregation wanted him, and the rest he traveled on his own. Baptized 700 people, set to work 21 congregations, 14 debates were held within the 3 counties. In the Texas Preacher, page 79. January 1894, his wife, Laura, died of pneumonia. On his way home from Kentucky, Brother Tant stopped in Nashville, Tennessee, and had a long visit with David Lipscomb of the Gospel Advocate. Brother Tant became a field editor of the Gospel Advocate. And later, Brother Tant wanted to marry a young woman named Nanny Green Yater. He would send her letters that said that hundreds of girls would have been delighted to marry him. Why don't you want to? And in 1895, she finally gave in and said yes. So here's their engagement. During their engagement, Brother Tant was very, very busy. He held a meeting at Sherman, Texas with 8 baptisms. He spent Christmas and his family with his family the second time in 2 years, in 12 years. Left the Tant Ballard. He left there for the Tant Ballard debate in January, which lasted 12 days. Immediately after that debate, the Tant Gerald debate lasted 6 more days. He was 2 months away from home. He traveled 1,200 miles. He spoke 101 times in 2 months. He was home for 2 days and then headed to Fort Worth. He held a meeting in Cooper, Texas for 10 days. 16 baptisms, 5 place memberships. He held a meeting in McGregor, Texas, in which 15 were baptized. He held a meeting in Anson, Texas. He held a meeting in Seymour, Texas. And we finally made it home and got married on December 30th, 1896. And we still have 40 years to go of his life. This is just the starting of his life. If you want to know the rest of the 40 years, you're going to have to read the book, J.D. Tant, Texas Preacher. Great book. Be great to have in your library. So over the next 40 years, Brother Tant worked very hard. He fought against instrumental music and debates and Bible studies. He fought against societies. He fought for baptism, for remission of sins, and many other scriptural things. He participated in debates, and let's look at a high-level view of these debates. And I think he had other debates, but I think these were the ones maybe that were advertised more. So around 1896, the Tant Ballard debate took place at Cooper for 12 days. After this debate, the Tant Gerald debate, which kind of already mentioned, at Sherman. In 1910, he had the Tant Frost debate on Oregon and society work in the Church of Christ. In 1933, he had a debate with D.N. Jackson, the Baptist from Texarkana. In 1934, he had a debate with a non-Sunday school brother. In the fall of 1934, he had a debate with Zeke Sherrill, a Baptist from Benton. In 1936, he had the Smith-Tant debate, in which they debated the question, was Alexander Campbell baptized for the remission of sins? And his last debate was held in Greenwood, Arkansas in the fall of 1937 with Ben Bogard on baptism for remission of sins. He wrote many books. Some books I found the publisher owned, some books I did not. The Gospel X-Ray, which is a book of his sermons, which would be good for your library. I found an envelope online that listed these books. The True Way was one of them. It was published by the Gospel Advocate in 1895. The Tant Frost debate was published in Cincinnati, Ohio. The Bible Study published in Dallas, Texas. And I found an advertisement in the Firm Foundation for the sale of this book and it went for sale in 1925. It was this advertisement. There was another book, Which Way? Why I Am a Christian, How to Study the Bible, Old Time Religion, Way It Used to Be. He also wrote in David Lipson's Gospel Advocate and Austin McGarry's Firm Foundation. So through his life, he preached in Texas, he preached in New Mexico, he preached in Arkansas, Mississippi, California, Arizona, and Tennessee, and probably many other states that I don't know about. So let's look at a few quotes, things that were said at Tant. He said, Tant's reputation in Texas was such that many came to hear him, even though there were but a handful of members in the town. That was written in the Texas Preacher on page 192. A quote by Fanning A. Tant, I believe nothing but death could have stopped him when he had a debate on hand. Some might say hell or high water could have done so, but I am sure the devil tried many times unsuccessfully to do the job. And I have known him to swim a creek as many as 7 times to get to an appointment. Texas Preacher, page 182. A quote from W.F. Ledlow. I am at present at Elmore, listening to Brother J.D. Tant preach the story of the cross, which is truly a feast of the soul. I would to God that we had some more Brother Tants, written in the Firm Foundation, August 28, 1900. J.D. Tant was a great preacher, and he used his tongue to preach and teach the story of Jesus. As we read Acts 5:42, and daily in the temple and every house, they cease not to teach and preach Jesus Christ. And I think this is what J.D. Tant did in his life. Brother Tant did this in many meetings that lasted 3 weeks straight, every night of the week. You know, if we're going to preach as God would have us, then our heart must include what is written in 2 Peter 1:5-7. We must be diligent. We must have faith, and virtue, and knowledge, and temperance, and patience, and godliness. Matthew 12:34, for out of the abundance of our heart, the mouth speaketh. If you want to make a difference in somebody's life, make your heart, focus your heart on Jesus Christ. Brother Tant did so many good things. We don't have time to go into it, but read the Texas Preacher, J.D. Tant. It's a great book. You may ask, well, what does he preach to have so many responses? Paragraph here in the Gospel X-ray of his sermon, it says, the first thing I am required to do is hear Christ in all things. Acts 3:22-23. Jesus says, the wise are those who hear his sayings and do them. Matthew 7:24. But no one can stop to hear him before I can reach the home of justification. I must believe with all my heart that Jesus is the Son of God. John 20:30 and 31. After believing this, I must repent of all my sins and forsake him. Acts 7:30. After this, I am required to confess Jesus as the Son of God. Matthew 10:32. The final step I must take is I must be buried with Christ in baptism. Romans 6:4. That's what he preached. This book actually was held by Brother Tant. He actually gave it to J.W. Schism, I believe. I'm sure the name there. There are many good things he has in his sermons. So let's think about a couple of negative things that J.D. Tant said. In 1908, he attended the Warlick-Wyatt debate at the Bethany Church. Warlick did not show up, and the Mormons were having a field day claiming that the champion, Camelot champion, had taken cold feet and failed to show up. After 2 hours of suffering under a Mormon victory parade, some of the brethren asked J.D. Tant if he would be willing to debate. Tant readily agreed, and the audience was called to order. Wyatt took sharp jabs with ridicule and sarcasm as the debate grew on, and Wyatt told Tant that he had called him everyone except a tumble bug, and mentioned, he will be calling me that next. And Tant finally lost his cool, told Wyatt he was a stuffed tumbling bug who's rolling down the road. So, not something we would want to say as we're having a debate of preaching. In 1910 in Crockett County, Tennessee, there was another debate. The Tant-Pig debate was held. Pig commented with some disgust on the uncouth and sloven appearance of his opponent and demanded a more respectable presence than Tant offered. Tant responded, I grew up on a farm And my old pappy always told us boys to dress for the kind of work we had to do. I come down here to do a hog killing job on a fat, overgrown, overstuffed pig, and I dress for the occasion. And let's get on with the job. Not something you would want to say at a debate. After this debate, because of its crudeness, the gospel advocate would not allow him to write on his pages. So as we speak, as we preach, we need to think about what we're saying, how it will affect others and the rest of our life. Tant then increased his writings in the firm foundation of Christian leaders. They still allowed him to write. In a meeting at Aransas Pass, Texas in 1936, somebody put a question in the question box: was Alexander Campbell turned out of the Baptist church for stealing hogs? Tant read the question and said, "Now I don't know much about the hog stealing business, but I do know Campbell was not turned out of the missionary Baptist church as we know it today. When Campbell lived, the devil hadn't invented that crowd yet." Texas Preacher, 461. You know, as preachers, it's funny, but as preachers, we must be careful of our tongue. James 3, verse 7 says, "For every kind of beast, and the birds and the serpents of the things in the sea is tamed, and have been tamed of mankind, but the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God." In James 3:10 it says, "Out of the same mouth proceedeth blessing and cursing. Brethren, these things ought not to be so. Don't they fountains send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter water? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either of vine, figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh." Brother Tant lived in Hamilton, Texas for about 15 years, starting in 1887. There was a boy named Orville Richardson who grew up in Indian Gap, which is about 15 miles from Hamilton. Orville was born around 1882, and his family was very poor. He learned to read by reading the Bible. And one day, a Church of Christ preacher came to Indian Gap and was teaching the same thing as reading the Bible. Orville Richardson was baptized in the Lord's Church by his preacher. He preached on occasion, became an elder in the Lord's Church in Eaton, Texas. And Orville Richardson was my great-grandfather. You know, I don't know if the preacher was J.D. Tant or not, but it's sure very possible because J.D. Tant went around preaching the gospel in that area. I tell you this story because we need to think about the example that we will be leaving for many generations to come. How many will be saved because we taught just one person? How many lives will it make a difference in? Brandon Yater Tant wrote this book. He wrote about his J.D. Tant's life. He wrote about the positives and the negative things that J.D. Tant did. He wrote this book, The Texas Preacher, for each one of us, that it may strengthen and encourage valiant young men like us to firmly stand for the truth. On page 7 of this book. Reminds me of a verse in Titus 1:9, "Holding fast the faithful word as he hath been taught, that he may be able to stand, that he may be able by sound doctrine both to exhort and to convince the gainsayers." So let us, in everything we say, everything we do, everything we teach, always glorify God in the church. Amen.
Wore me out, Brother Tibbits. Boy, I feel like I need a nap after this. That was a lot of energy, and of course you had to go very quickly through all that material. What, 12 pages or so? It's a lot of work that you put in. I forgot to fill out the conclusion there. That was good. I thought you did an excellent job, especially given the amount of material that you had to run through so quickly. You certainly had your subject well in mind, and that came through.
The amount of material meant that you were focused down here more than you were focused up here. But that may simply be because of the subject matter. As far as the length of the introduction, I actually think you could have gone a little bit further time-wise. A lot of times we spend too much time introducing for this amount of time we have to speak. But I think you could have introduced maybe even a little bit longer. Gestures, you pretty well were holding on to the lectern. Rate of delivery just very fast. I know that does have to do with the amount of material that you had, but I don't know that I've heard you necessarily a whole lot in another situation. I know I haven't heard you outside of the chapel hall. Don't remember hearing you in here. Do you know if I've ever critiqued you?
Maybe one.
Okay. All right. If I have, I don't, but I don't remember. So I can't say whether that would be normal or not. I think it probably was just because you had so much material. There were some words mispronounced, and again, a lot of that was because of the amount of material. You ran a lot of words together, caught a baptism, many, manny, harse. He borrowed harse. He borrowed a horse. Him, library, Christ, think. A lot of those were just because of trying to go so quickly. Some grammatical errors. To get up excitement. Or to become excited. Why don't she want to? Why didn't she want to? Why did she not want to? Why would she not want to? Might have even been better done. I found an envelope online. I think that's because you were going so quickly. Or was the envelope online?
It's on the internet.
The envelope was on the internet. All right, cool.
There's a picture of it. I should have said picture.
Okay. Ignore that. Probably many other states that I don't know about. There's some states you don't know about. Okay. It's not the states that I don't know about. It's I don't know about his preaching yet. So that's it. There's many good things he has in his sermons. Well, there's several problems there. I would suggest in Tant's sermons, one can find many good things. To stand for the truth on page 7 in his book. The truth is on page 7. If you're looking for it, it's on page 7 in his book. But it's not the truth that's on page 7 in his book. On page 7 in his book, he's talking about the need to stand for the truth, or so forth. Or you could simply say to stand for the truth, you're finishing the thought. To stand for the truth, page 7. And you might hold the book up. You started out, I think maybe the first words you said, you know, or shortly thereafter you said, you know. So we want to avoid that. In 1 Peter 4:11, it says, 1 Peter 4:11 says, or Peter says, and at the end, give us the reference. You mentioned some of the positive and negative things he had on the church. I might suggest replacing things with impacts. Some of the positive and negative impacts he had on the church. What was his name?
Jefferson Davis Tant.
All right. On the cover sheet and then the title itself, 3 times you have Jefferson David Tant.
Maybe that's David.
I don't know. I would assume Davis. Y'all know? I would assume Davis, but I don't know. But anyway.
Check the book.
Check the book. And be consistent. You know, whatever it is, one place we need to have it there, the others. In the outline itself, you have a number of words capitalized, don't need to be capitalized. And then when you have cities and states, sometimes you'd have city, comma, state. Sometimes you'd have city, state with no comma. So you might just go back and work some on those types of things. But given the time, I think you did an excellent job trying to squeeze everything in. A lot of material. I appreciate it, Brother Dustin.